Bradford, hit us with some intro music. If I'm not mistaken, that's Michael Jackson. Welcome to Worship Tutorials Live. All right. Okay, so you're live with us today. This is Brian, Hannah, Bradford. We have an agenda today. We're going to talk to you about a question that was actually recently asked in a video. Because in the last vlog video, I talked about how I hate the usage of the word organic by the food industry because it's incorrect. Organic means, in the world of science, means that something contains carbon. So all life is organic here on the planet Earth because all life is carbon-based.
Wouldn't that technically mean that they use the word correctly? They just don't use it. They don't when something.
So
is
yes,
not
all
organic,
food, all food that was once living, has carbon in it. So therefore, it is organic. But the word has nothing to do technically with the quality of food. We're way off base here. This is what we're getting at. Somebody asked me, "How did you get into ministry?" Because I talked about how I was a science major. I was a chemistry and biology major in college, and I worked in a lab for a while. And today you have three people in front of you who are
organic.
Who are organic forms of life. We have carbon in us.
Oh, we are.
Our bodies are made mostly of carbon and nitrogen and oxygen, helium, hydrogen, not helium, hydrogen. Mostly water. Not helium. Anyway, so you have three people here who are either in ministry full time. Bradford and I are, at least I used to be full time ministry. I don't know what I am now.
3 different varying degrees.
Yeah,
but
and
yeah,
and Hannah is a resident at our church and is one day going to enter into full time ministry. That's the plan, right?
Yes, it is.
That's why she's a resident in New Hope Church. So you got 3 different perspectives. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We'll play a song, and then we'll answer some questions. We'll have some fun together. So I can see your questions here. Let me know if you experience any issues with the audio or video. Let us know. I'm going to get away from saying, hey, tell us if it sounds good. Hey, tell us if it looks good.
Today is not that day.
So if you have issues with audio or video, if something seems off, tell us. Otherwise, we will proceed. So, first of all, where should we start? I'll tell my story.
You tell your story.
Okay, so this is my story. I need some background music while I tell my story. I grew up in a small town in Fairview, Oklahoma, northwest Oklahoma. 3,000 people. That's not terribly relevant. What I wanted to say was that when I was in high school, growing up in school, I was I liked sciences and math and that kind of thing. So when I went to college, I actually was declared originally youth ministry, then I was math, then I was chemistry, then I was biology and chemistry, and I ended up with a degree in chemistry and biology, and then I worked in a lab for about 4 years out of college. I'm 38 years old, so I don't know how old I seem to you guys, but college was a while ago for me. So I'm almost 40.
37 3/4.
What?
That's how old you seem.
I seem 37 3/4. I seem slightly younger than 38. Bradford, everybody. All right.
I got jokes.
I did science in college and undergrad. And then I worked in the science field, which is where I met my wife Angie. I don't really talk much about my personal life here on the channel. So my wife is a research scientist. She did her PhD in microbiology, immunology at the University of Oklahoma, where that's where we met while I was doing science work there. Anyway, so here's what the turning point for me was. How did I get into ministry? Because it's a weird background to go into full-time ministry. And I think there are, I've come up with 3 things that I think are important for you if you're trying to decide, how do I find what God's calling in my life is? The first thing is, I served in a church. So while I was working in a lab, I served in the youth ministry department in a local church in Edmond, Oklahoma, if you know where that is, if you're from Oklahoma. So I served in a church, and as I began to serve and really got plugged in that youth group as a leader, I really felt like that's where I felt like most alive. That's where my heart was. And it was less so at the lab where I worked. And my plan all along was like go to graduate school or medical school or something like that. But as I kept going and going, I finally one day said to my boss, I said, I really think I want to be a pastor and not like a scientist. And she was very supportive of me. She was a believer, is a believer. And she always told me, I would always ask for like a week off to go to mission, like church camp and stuff as a sponsor. She's like, Brian, I don't feel like I can tell you no when you're going to do church stuff. Like those were the vacations that I took. Anyway, so Jamie Huntington, you said, how do I get hired at my church? This is what we're talking about today. So I volunteered at that youth ministry program for probably 2 years. And then through a series of events, the position came open. And they were actually pretty unfortunate events, but the youth pastor who I served under left, and the church needed a time of healing through that whole process. And so I and another youth leader basically led the youth ministry for a full year as a volunteer. And so through that process, she and I basically did the job of the youth pastor. So the position came open and I applied for it, and it was crazy because here I had been at this church for like 3 years and I had been doing the job for a year, and I still went through like a 4-month application process. It was, churches are weird sometimes. Anyway, so that is how I sort of moved from full-time research science into full-time ministry. And so I did youth ministry at that church for about 4 years. And I started doing a lot of worship leading in that church as a youth pastor. And then my wife, Angie, took a position here in North Carolina at the University of North Carolina. And I moved here, and I just started looking for jobs because I didn't have we moved here. We moved here. And I found a few churches who were looking for a worship leader, and met with them. And it's actually on Craigslist. It's crazy. And then started working part-time as a worship leader and eventually full-time at New Hope Church, where we all lead worship. And built worship tutorials along the way, so that's now my full-time job, and I lead worship part-time. But that worship tutorials thing, if you are new to the channel and you see like 250,000 subscribers on YouTube, and this guy looks like he makes a living on YouTube, which is kind of true, that happened over the process of like 10 years. Mm-hmm. I started making videos about 10 years ago. And so the 3 things that I think are important to remember. One is you need to serve in a church. If you feel called to lead in a church, to work in a church, you need to serve in a church. And if I were hiring somebody and somebody applied and they weren't serving in a church, I wouldn't even look at their application. Because they obviously don't really want to serve a church. They just want a job in a church. I think that's important. That's something that we think about at New Hope a lot when we hire people. 2 is pay attention to what makes you feel like you come alive. So science didn't for me. And
even though you're good at it.
I don't know how good at it I was.
Well, I think that's important to say because some people...
I excelled in it in school.
Yeah.
You know, I'd had really good grades and stuff. And I did well in my coursework. Till the end of my college career, I kind of drifted. But
well, my point is, some people think that because they're good at something,
that's what they should do.
That's what they should do, and they're not happy. And finding your joy in your job and what you're good at is not always it. Sometimes you got to find your joy in what God has called you to do, which He will give you if you ask Him to do that.
And so here I had a pretty good job, working in the science field. It doesn't pay what most people think it does, by the way, which is a totally different topic of conversation, but I just didn't feel like that's where my heart was. And the more I served in my church, the more I realized this is what God made me to do. And the more I started leading worship, I felt it even more. And I really felt a connection to teach, which is where the worship tutorials things kind of came in. And so 2 is pay attention to where your heart leads you a little bit. And then 3 is when you recognize opportunity, don't be afraid to walk into it. Because that's kind of why, this youth pastor left and there was an opportunity. And it was a scary step for me because I took a pay cut. I think. Maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. But anyway, it's a career move.
Details.
I went to school for chemistry. I didn't go to school for youth ministry. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just had life experience doing it. But I walked through that door of opportunity, and I've seen a series of that. Like, about a year ago, I quit my job at church to do worship tutorials full time, and that was scary because what if the income stops? Then I got nothing, So, but it was opportunity that I felt was ordained by God that I walked through. So, I think what's the verse in Psalm? Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Most people focus on the last half of the verse, saying God is going to give you what you want. So name it and claim it, all that junk that I don't believe in. The first part of that verse is the most important. Delight yourself in the Lord. So I believe that if you devote your life to God through obedience of the Bible, and just in serving in a church, because I think that's important for us, then God is going to lead your heart to the thing that He has for you to do. And if it's working in a church, full-time ministry, then that's what it is. It might be something completely different, but it's gonna be the thing that your heart desires. That's what I believe the literal interpretation of that verse is. So that's my story, how I got into ministry. It was a long one. Who wants to go next? Are there any questions? You were looking at the comments.
Yeah, nothing directly pertaining to this for right now. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm coughing. I've had a cold for a while.
Yeah, we want to kind of keep moving on this, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next? So we have different stories. Okay, Hannah, tell us your story.
Yeah. So I grew up in the church. My dad was a pastor, so I was kind of always just thrown into church. I loved it, and I actually joined the worship team in 7th grade. And so I had been singing and doing this for so long, and then I kind of took a break when I went off to school, took a kind of a step away from church, and was trying to find myself. And I thought I was going to go into elementary education. I thought maybe military, I was all over the place. And I finally left the college that I was at and moved to North Carolina and tried to go back to school again. And still, it was like, nothing is working out. I don't know what I want to do. I honestly was just like, Lord, I don't know what do I need to do? And when I finally broke down and asked Him, like, hey, just show me the way, I was introduced to New Hope. And I had a friend who kept saying, go to New Hope Church. And I found every way not to go. I was like, no, I don't have time. And when I finally said yes, it was like, I knew that day, I was like, something changed in my heart. And from then on, I was so excited. I was ready to go to church. And it was like the 3rd week, one of our friends, Becca, who was on stage, she actually talked to me. She was playing electric guitar up there, and she saw me, and we kind of we met, and she put me in touch with some of the worship leaders. Now we're like best friends, and it's just been a whirlwind. Doors have been opening left and right, and actually took an internship at New Hope, and it was for worship leading. And now it was like the 2nd weekend. They said something about a residency program, and so I applied, and I got it, and I'm back into ministry. And it's just, when you are at your bottom, you don't know what you need to do, but I encourage you guys to just ask Him, say, hey, close all the wrong doors and open all the right, because that's really where I've found myself, and there's no place I'd rather be.
Awesome.
So.
But you plugged into a church.
Yeah.
That was part of it.
Definitely.
I just really think that's important. And Hannah's doing a residency, so you did an internship first, which was how long?
The internship was 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
The summer.
And then the residency is
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So if you can find a church, if you're really interested in leading worship or working in a church, like you can go to Bradford. You went to school for it.
I did.
So you can speak into that.
I did. And
how that compares to like real life experience.
Yeah.
But if you can find a church that will allow you to work like as an intern or. And it's hard because did we pay you to do the internship? Did we pay you to do a I have no idea.
No, I actually left my job.
I'm not involved in it at all.
I left one of the things that you were saying is you kind of just have to take a leap of faith.
Yes.
Like I left my job. I was dedicating myself to this internship. I actually had to get rid of my apartment because I couldn't afford it anymore. But it's like
we do provide housing though, right?
Yes, you guys. They're not just throwing me on the streets. No,
we can't make, like,
I have housing
and, like,
now.
Live
yeah.
Speaking of,
but I'm excited.
Becca's watching.
Hey, Becca!
Becca!
All right. So we were talking about you, Becca. If you're listening.
All
Only
great
good things. Yeah.
All good things. All good things.
So
reference.
Yeah, so if you can find a church that that will allow you to do like an internship or residency, that is very valuable. Very, very valuable. And churches want you. They may not know that they want you or need, but churches need people who are passionate and willing to volunteer and give of themselves. So yeah, that's important. Mm-hmm. Cool. Bradford, you're up.
Read?
Yes. Man, I grew up in moving a lot because my dad's military, first off. And so every few years I'd get a new church because of that, because we'd be moving across state lines, Japan for a little bit too, all that. And I grew up in a completely different kind of church, a very traditional style of church, pipe organ, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I served...
Pipe organ can be awesome.
It can be, yes. It can be. But the people that, and myself included, each week, just didn't really feel like we were understanding what we were singing.
Yeah.
And understanding like the joy that was in it. And I served. I was an acolyte, and so I wore a robe, and I lit the candles, and I carried the cross, and I held the gold Bible when the gospel was read.
How old were you when this was?
I started doing that when I was about 9 or 10.
Okay.
And did it for a total of maybe 6 years or so.
Cool.
Maybe even younger than that. But I wanted to serve, and I don't think I made the connection as to why. I think I just thought it was cool. I don't remember. But anyways, grew up like that, and always did music to some extent since I was about 7. And so ever since then, I wanted to keep doing music, but I just thought it was fun. And I thought you had to be really stinking good in order to do anything with music for the rest of your life. Like, it's not just about how good you are at music. Like, you have to have personality. Like, do you have energy?
Yes.
Are you a people person? Like, there's so many things that go into it, because depending on what kind of music you want to get into. But I remember going to an event with a friend of mine where there was a full band, like drums, electric guitars,
I have
bass.
a similar experience.
Yeah, and it was the first time I was like, man, these are like church songs? Like, this is okay?
Yeah, I have a very similar experience.
And I was like, man, I can't wait to tell my parents I heard rock music.
Couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Right? Well, exactly. I was like, I can't believe, I'm going to tell my parents, like, I'm listening to like rock and roll music that talks about God. They're going to love this. And so like I got into that, and I was just like wondering what the heck that meant and what it was for and all that. And so I ended up going to a private high school, Christian high school, just because the high school in my area near me that I was slotted to go to because of where we lived, my parents weren't real worried about it, and maybe more than they would be now at this point. I was the first one of my siblings to go to high school, so I think maybe they were just a little more paranoid. Yeah. But it was obviously what God wanted, because I got to go to a private Christian school, and we had chapel every week, and so starting sophomore year of high school, I was leading worship, and I say that because I didn't know that's what it was called, and I didn't know what I was doing anyways, and we just got up there, no PCO, no MP3s.
No.
If I wanted to do a song and I was the one singing it, I'd give them charts, and I said, just follow me. And like, first off, that was bad on my part. I didn't prepare them. Yeah. Second off, though, that was pretty impressive on their parts.
Yeah.
They would learn
just followed you.
So all these high school kids making it happen and stuff, and you guys, if you don't know this about me, may laugh now. I don't know. But like, I wanted to be an engineer. Like, I wanted to design roller coasters. And like, that's how my brain works.
Did you play Roller Coaster Tycoon?
Oh, I love Roller Coaster Tycoon. Still.
Yeah.
I love it. But I didn't realize how much, like, math, like the engineering side of things, I didn't realize that side of math was not as much fun as, like, the geometry and algebra side of math was to me. I still would love to do that. Like, when we have kids.
I like math.
All that, like, that'll be fun to do math with them. But anyways, I remember seeing, like, wait a minute. like people lead worship. I found out that people lead worship like as a job, like that's doable. I was like, huh. And then I found out you could go to school to learn how to get to do it. Yeah. And I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
So
there is a way.
Out of all these things, like, you know, I'm finding all these things left and right. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. So I checked out Liberty University, and the program they had was rather new.
Okay.
But it was already like the best in the country. Not many Christian schools
probably one of the only
yet.
ones.
Yeah, now there's definitely a lot of other things. And at the time I didn't really know anything else. I think I knew about like 2 other places that did it.
Yeah.
I checked it out and I knew I needed to be there. This was like in 2006. I checked it out and I knew I wanted to do it. And like it's not completely necessary to go to school for it at all. I don't think that like there's a lot of things that I'd learned about worship leading and what I do now that really has nothing to do with my degree. But it was because it's a lot easier to retain that new stuff, like how to be a leader and how to schedule people on Planning Center and how to lead worship in an engaging and reverent way. Like those things came because I took time to really get down the music side of things. I got better vocally to the point where people would want to could suffer through hearing me sing. And also, what's important about that also
I have that
is
experience too.
Huh?
I have that experience too. Where it's like I sucked at. That's not a good word to say. I was not a very good vocalist for a long time.
Well, not only was it like did people like I wanted people to be able to be fine with hearing me sing, but I needed to be able to sing to 2 and 3 services. Like I needed to be able to I needed the capacity and the stamina to do it. And so like that helped, but then at the same time like I don't spend time memorizing chord charts anymore. I don't even memorize music. It's not memorizing how to play it. It's memorizing how it sounds, and then because I took the training for that, and that was really important for me. Yeah. And so that's not the only way. Like our boss Fuller, he went to school he went to culinary
school. And if that guy invites you over to his house,
you say yes.
For you.
You cancel.
Holy cow!
You cancel all your plans.
So
and
this
you go
is
have dinner with Fuller.
This is Fuller, who you've seen in videos. If you know our tutorials,
I could throw a rock right now and break his window.
Fuller and I convinced Fuller to move in next door to me, basically. When he was buying a house a while back. Fuller is our boss. He is the global worship arts pastor at our church, which if you're not familiar with our church is I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hijack you, Bradford.
Oh, you're fine.
I'll give it right back to you. Our church is a mega church, basically. I mean, our church is about
by technical definition.
By definition, we have about 5,000 people who attend any given Sunday. But it's a multi-site church. That's across 6 physical campuses. Of which Bradford is a campus worship leader. I used to be a campus worship leader. But anyway, so Fuller leads that whole thing. And dude went to culinary school. But he is like an awesome musician, though. He's very technically.
And he's humble as all get out.
But his leadership skills are off the charts.
Yeah. He makes you want to get better just because he looks at you differently. You're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna go practice.
So anyway, you went to Liberty.
So I went to Liberty, and at that time frame, I got a lot better at everything.
Yeah.
Now the one thing like between Hannah and a few of our other interns, I told them, I said, Liberty doesn't really teach you how to lead worship, which is funny. Like we went to school for worship leading, and like the only way you're gonna get better. And the reason I say that is because the only way you're gonna get better at leading worship is actually leading worship.
Yeah.
Like there's no formula for how to do it. There's no set kinds of songs. You're not gonna go from this song to this song, and this is order 1, and you're gonna do these songs like. And so transitioning between songs and dealing with volunteers and dealing with technology and your bandmates and like there's no set thing. I mean, I almost think you'd be better off going to school for psychology and then becoming a worship leader.
That's actually not bad.
Because you have to be able to like figure out, you have to be able to analyze people so you can like what makes them come alive. You have to be able to inspire them, because if you don't inspire them, they're just going to feel like they have to do this out of obligation, not out of excitement. And so I did that. I interned at a church as well. I had to. That was part of my grade.
Yeah, so that's smart.
Yeah, which was cool that Liberty did that. And I mean, it forced me to kind of step out. And they sent me to a church completely different than everything I grew up doing down in Florida. And that was where I actually met Fuller. Yeah. Fuller was a campus worship leader at the time. And about 8 months later, he moved up from Florida to North Carolina here.
This was about, 7 years ago?
Almost 7 years ago. Almost 7 years ago. Yeah. And he came up here, and about a year and a half after that, I started talking with him and connecting with him about potentially coming on staff.
Yeah.
And he was looking for somebody. I wasn't 100% looking for a job, but I kind of was. I had just gotten out of school, and I was doing some other things, and it worked out. And so October 21st, 2012, it was my first day on the job, and that was the day we launched the Sanford campus.
Yeah, that's where Bradford leads.
So after that, about 2 years ago, I became full-time, almost 3. Right
so
before
you and I started within a month.
We started within a month of each other. Yeah.
At New Hope. So.
Yeah, and Brian couldn't cut it, so he left.
That's true.
No. Brian, and this is why I like doing stuff with Brian, because Brian wanted to give back in a completely different way than so. We could go on, but
yeah, we could.
So about 3 years ago, I came on full time, and that's what I do. And we get a lot of questions like, "What do you guys do full time?" Like, I think people are like, some people are genuinely curious. Other people are like thinking like, "Oh, you probably just like play guitar all week."
If you've never been involved in church leadership, I can understand why it's like, what do these people do all day? Yeah. But there's more to do than there is time to do it.
It is, and like sometimes you're working like 60 hours in 1 week. The next week you're normal at 40. But, like we have rehearsals. We're very strategic at New Hope about how we do things. Nothing is really an accident. Right. The way we do it. I mean, like I guess it's gonna pop up and happen every once in a while, but we plan and rethink and evaluate and critique and give feedback and always. Because if this is God's church, this is something we want to take pride in.
Yeah.
And so we evaluate how we can always do better.
Yep.
So as of September 17th, I will be switching campuses though.
Oh yes, Bradford's
to
moving.
Our North Durham campus, which is
launching a brand new campus.
Yes. Ooh. So it's gonna be a setup teardown.
If you live in North Durham, I'm gonna tell you
at Carrington Middle School.
I'm gonna tell you, if you live in the North Durham area, which maybe you do, you need to email Bradford. Can we give your email out on this video?
Yeah, why not?
Bradford at
no. Bradford.Mitchell.
Oh yeah, they changed the email.
They changed it. Yes.
That's before I left.
Bradford.Mitchell.
I thought you were saying no.
MITCHELL
at newhopechurch.org.
At newhopechurch.org.
Or just go to the church's website. We should have just said that.
Nathan Dillard gave us a tip for $2. Aww. Thank you. He says, "I love your channel." Thank you, Nathan. Hey, if you want to give a tip, you may, and if you have a question or something, we'll definitely make sure to answer that.
Yeah.
Certainly.
The more you tip, the more likely we will answer your question.
We'll answer the question. Unless it's like inappropriate, we won't answer it.
Well,
we'll just receive the money. Okay. So we have a lot of questions. I have questions.
Okay.
For you guys. Ooh. But some of the questions are, I tried to remember some as they flew by. One is it okay to go to more than one church at one time? Interesting question.
Do you mean serving?
Yeah, I don't know. That's just what they said, to go to 2 churches at the same time. So we have volunteers who do that.
Yeah, we have a lot of volunteers.
We have one of the guys who's played drums with Bradford and I both at each of our campuses. Mm-hmm. Plays drums at New Hope, and he plays drums for a different church as well. I tend to say, like when people have asked me this before, I tend to say it's probably best to plug into one place and really plug into that place.
Yeah. And there's not really a 100% right or wrong answer.
It's certainly a personal, every answer to that question is going to be different depending on the situation. But I think it's important just to be at one place.
Don't want to run yourself dry either.
Yeah, I mean, if you're serving at more than one church and you're volunteering, it's like, man, you're gonna be busy.
Yeah.
If they're putting you to work. We try and make sure our volunteers do not serve more than twice a month, because we ask a lot of them, so we don't want to burn them out. Okay, another. What were some more questions? Here's a question I have. You kind of answered it, Bradford, but if you were going to go back to school, would you do something different? If you were going to go to college, if you were getting ready to go to college now, knowing what you know.
Well, I don't like school.
Well, say you're 18 years old and you're applying to school, or however old you were when you applied.
If I were to do at this point in my life, I'd probably want to do, like recording. stuff because I don't. It's not that I think I have everything down about playing music, but there are a handful of times where I'm not interested in the kind of music that exceeds my abilities. Mm-hmm. I still like listening to it and I want to get better. Yeah. It's not like I'm trying to be lazy, but I know what I know about music and what I can do would just benefit greatly from more about recording. And really, it's pretty easy to figure out on YouTube, but there are schools that do it. And if I work better under pressure, so if I was getting graded for that, I would do so much better. That's why I got better in schools, because my homework was get better at guitar or you fail. That's pretty much it. So that took a lot of, that's how I work. So yeah. For me, it'd probably be something to do with recording.
Yeah. It's funny because I basically, part of what I do for a living now is video and audio production, and I have zero training in it. Wow. And if you go back and watch videos over the years, you will see how zero.
There are some that are.
There are some terrible videos. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm still learning along the way. So I don't do anything that I went to school for. So I have a chemistry degree and a biology undergrad degree, and I have a MBA, a master's in business administration, that I did while I worked full-time. I did that at night, part-time, because I thought I was going to go to dental school and be a dentist. But my undergrad GPA wasn't... Dental school is hard to get into. You got to have, seriously high grades out of college to get into it.
I mean, it's not like I would expect them to accept flunks, but, it's still, interesting.
I had my 3.5 was not high enough. It needed to be, a 3.75 or above.
So just for dentists, normal doctors?
Or no, wait, I didn't quite have a 3.5. I had below a 3.5. I can't remember. But I remember I needed a 3.75 or a 3.8. Undergrad GPA in chemistry to get into... It's about going to medical school. So they said, you can go to grad school and we'll accept that GPA. So I did an MBA. And I did at least that well in my MBA. But I don't use any of that stuff.
Well, the business.
I don't mean any offense to a business major, but going from chemistry at a school where science was a big deal to doing business administration was not as difficult course material for me personally. So
Brian's also extremely smart, so smarter than he probably lets on here at least.
But yeah, so
we were just talking about science earlier, and Hannah and I were like, "Yeah, that's awesome. It's great."
We were talking about the universe.
Yeah.
Anyway. What I really like to talk about is, this is totally off topic, but
that's fine.
There are a lot of people in the church world who think they know about science and who argue about it and who just make the church world look dumb. And I really like having conversations about how science and theology and the Bible support one another, because most people think they're at odds with one another. I don't see it that way.
The science that they come up with on their own.
The science that they, I don't know, wherever they learned it. People learn. Yeah. So, but a lot of scientists who are, agnostic or atheist think that the Bible is just a fairy tale book. And they argue that very eloquently. And it breaks my heart a little bit to hear that. But I do believe that science and the Bible support one another. Consider this, for example, then we'll move on. How do we understand time? It's the earth revolves around the sun. That's a day, right? On what day in the creation story did God create the heavens and the earth, the sun? It was the third day before God created the sun. In the creation story, God didn't create the things that we use to define time until halfway through. So if we say that there is a literal 7-day creation, well, how do you even say that when the thing that you use to define a day wasn't created until halfway through the whole account? So I think that we Christians should think a little more critically about these things. But anyway, I do think that those things... and the Big Bang Theory describes God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Bang. That's what the Big Bang Theory describes. Something from nothing. So anyway, let's move on. We could keep going and going and going and going. But I don't know if I would go back to science. I certainly would, because I would never have met my wife had I not gone that track. And I would be very sad had I not ever met my wife. So it's funny, you look back on things and you think like, that was a waste of time, but was it really? I don't know.
Speaking of time.
Gosh, we went on such a tangent. That was ridiculous.
That was awesome.
But I'd love to talk about science and faith a lot.
Smarty.
Okay. I almost, you know what I almost said? I caught myself. I almost said the sun revolves around the earth. If people would have listened to that and said, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know.
Do you even know what it's called?
No. Let's play a song. Okay. Let's play a song. We just filmed a song. If you guys have any questions, keep them coming. I've seen a lot of questions coming in, but yeah, we'll get to them in a bit. You might need a little more volume there, Bradford.
Well, I'm trying to start low.
Okay. So we today filmed Shadow Step by Hillsong. Is it Hillsong United?
Hillsong United.
Featuring Hannah on the vocals again, because Hannah did What a Beautiful Name, and the question was posed, which that video has tons and tons of views. And the question that I asked was, would you like to see Hannah sing more? And everybody resoundingly said yes. So we recorded today's Shadow Step by Hillsong United. Hannah sang it. We're going to sing it for you now. And then soon the real actual video's coming. And Bradford and Hannah and I did it. So it'll be pretty cool. We're going to have like a split screen with all three of us in it. You guys ready? You remember the words?
Yeah, the bridge part of it.
I'll sing it with
down.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
Met me at the sinning stable. I found you waiting by the well, unexpected. You were always there.
Oh, yeah.
Chasing all my steps, right up the way of your heart. Move me like you do the mountains, move me like you do the wind. I'll chase your voice through the dark, fix my eyes on the unexpected, in the wonder of your shadow step. So take another step.
Mid-song capo change. 2, 3.
Never ever lost your sleeping. Mercy makes the road ahead unexpected. You were always good.
shit song video
It's coming your
will be
way.
a better interpretation of the song than that. But you got a little bit of something what we had going. If you have a song request, I suppose we've got about 10 minutes, 12 minutes left. We need to wrap it up at 5 o'clock our time, which is Eastern time. But yeah, so that's something what's coming.
Wait.
What? Are we gonna talk about the greatest guitar ever?
Right now, even just for a moment, this Shelton slays.
This is a Shelton Electric Instruments.
And Brian bought it from
Guitar.
underneath my nose.
So Shelton sent us
I told him he
3
could.
guitars?
Yes.
He sent us 3 guitars.
A Tele, a Strat, and a Jazzmaster.
And a Jazzmaster. All 3 were awesome, but Bradford and I opened the case, and it was like a radiant golden light shining out of it.
Also, that could have been because we were at the main campus where all the lights were.
And it does have a gold pick guard. But anyway, and it was like this thing, and then Bradford played it for most of the conference. He sent him to us for a conference that our church put on, so we'd have him on stage. And it was, I had your guitar turned up in my head the whole time. I was like, this is like the greatest sounding guitar I've ever heard in my life.
It's so good. And that's also because of the Emerson wiring kit.
It's just the whole package.
And the Porter pickups
as
so, well.
There's
all
so
of
much in that thing.
And I
and
love it. I haven't
never
played
stops.
it in a while.
Like you strum it and it just, the sustain goes on forever.
I haven't played this guitar that as much
and
as
Bradford
I just
was
played for a
like,
while.
I have to have this guitar. And I thought, yeah, he does. I'd like it, but he does. And then I said, Bradford, what if I bought that guitar? What would it make you hurt? And he said, what did you say? I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna get one.
Bradford's
myself.
gonna get one himself.
I'm gonna get one myself.
That got a little awkward there.
Yeah, it was. I was just being uncomfortable. My nose itched, and I was trying. I was
sorry.
hoping it was gonna make me talk. I love this, but I would prefer not a gold pickguard. That's not really me. So.
Dude, that's the gold on white.
I know,
it's
you
like
love
the
it.
White Falcon of Strats. Right?
You love it. It's pretty awesome.
It is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Hannah, you had a question. Somebody said,
Are you single?
Any question?
something about your guitar playing. So where's Hannah's guitar?
I'm learning, guys. I
She
promise.
said we thought that you were learning. Hannah played me an A chord earlier today. It was a legit A major. It was good.
I promise you I am practicing. I finally have my calluses, so you guys, I'm getting there, but slowly but surely.
Yes.
I'll be playing soon.
Yeah, and I did see another question earlier. A person said, I want to play guitar. How can I do it? Well, if you go to worshiptutorials.com on your internet web browser on your computer, you can go to the guitar lesson link and guitar lessons, and there you will find a beginner's guitar course that I have filmed lots and lots and lots of lessons that will take you from what is this thing to playing songs and stuff. And it's all completely free. You can sign up for it and take it completely free, and it will help you. What do you use to learn? Do you just have friends that teach you?
Well,
Does Becca teach you?
Becca, I'm like, she doesn't really taught me, but we're like learning. Like
Okay.
I like observe, but
Yes.
I'm using your
You're
videos.
using the videos?
Yeah, and then just also like looked up chords and played.
Yeah.
And so from there,
Yeah.
my cousin told me not to sing while playing right now.
That's not good advice.
No? Okay. Because, like, that's so hard for me. I have to sing
Well,
and
if
play.
you want to sing and play eventually, I think that it's good to learn to do it from the start.
Okay.
That's what I did.
Good.
And I never
So
ever
two
struggled with playing and singing at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely practice all 3 separately.
Yeah,
Practice singing, practice playing guitar,
Yeah.
but also practice playing both. Yeah.
Doing it
Don't
both.
just wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, so maybe my advice isn't great.
Well, you gotta.
You want to do it
Yeah.
up front. You don't want to not because
Don't just think they're mutually exclusive
Yeah.
and you're gonna mutually exclusive and think you're gonna combine them magically one
Yeah.
day.
yeah. Bradford, do you see any other questions worth answering? So Hannah's
I'm
working
looking.
on it.
I'm looking.
Why did I wonder?
Somebody asking about talking about
Ross.
science and theology. That's kind of fun. That'd be interesting. I don't feel like I'd be qualified to talk about that. That's for sure.
I
Brian
feel barely
probably
qualified
could.
to talk about it.
Brian feels like he could. I could.
So scientists also believe that science is pure. Science is not pure, meaning that it's completely separate from belief in anything. And that's not the truth. Because at some point, a scientist has to make a statement of belief, whether they make a statement of belief in a deity or God, or they make a statement of belief that we don't understand. And that's fine. Scientists can do that. But we don't know everything. And I don't know that we can know everything. So at some point, there are questions that don't have answers. And you have to settle on one side of it or the other. Like, how do you wrestle with the fact that, like, we don't understand things about the beginnings of the universe. We just don't understand it. We can observe what's happening now. And I also think that it's a shame for believers to ignore scientific fact, because God created the universe, and God created the phenomena that we can see and observe and measure, and if something's true, it's true. So if something, evolution, for example, you can prove evolution. Darwin did it on the Galapagos Islands with finches and the size of their beaks, and so. For us to say evolution is a myth is wrong, and we look like fools when we do it. But we have to, you have to macroevolution versus micro. Man coming from an ape is a little bit different than things about a species changing over time in response to their environment, which is what evolution is. But anyway, again, I went super nerd again. I'm sorry, it just comes out of me. Okay.
I don't know what just happened.
I
was trying to look for questions.
You said science and faith, and I just started talking. It is something that I'm really passionate about, and I rarely ever talk about it. So whenever I start to talk about it, it just starts. I vomit science and faith all over the place. Okay. But I do believe that it all points to. People argue that it's all chance, that it all happened. But I don't understand how you can make that argument. Yeah. That there was no intelligent design. And some scientists very, very eloquently argue against intelligent design. And, they'll pit them against a Christian, person, and they'll make the Christian guy look like a fool. Yeah. And that's heartbreaking to see. But, one thing, when I took philosophy in college, I went to a Christian university, and this was a very formative experience for me in my life. I took philosophy. The first thing we did in philosophy was we proved that God doesn't exist. We proved it. And then the next thing we did in the class was we proved that God does exist. And it taught me that if you say the right things and argue the right way and use the right framework, you can really argue for anything that you want to be true. Which kind of goes against what I just said, that there are things that are true. But it just, I don't know. It gets very existential, I guess. So anyway, now there's awkward silence.
So guitar gear.
Let's talk about guitar gear. That Shelton guitar is awesome.
Yes.
So is this Martin acoustic guitar.
It is.
Do you know what I saw a guy, Dylan, what's his name? McCurchie? That makes pickups, isn't Gear Talk, Praise and Worship?
Yes.
He made this post about how it's like there really isn't any bad gear anymore. It's like even the bottom stuff that you buy these days, like the cheapo stuff, is still pretty good. Like if you go to Guitar Center and pick up 10 Squier guitars, 8 of them are going to be pretty good. Pretty good guitars.
That's a good point.
So now we're talking guitar gear.
I totally would use other things, but why when I have this Shelton and I have this Kemper?
That's right. Becca wants to know if your shirt is velvet.
Well, Becca, how'd you know?
This is not a fashion show.
Did you know that in Seinfeld that George Costanza is obsessed with draping himself in velvet throughout the entire series?
I remember that. And being an architect.
I would drape myself in velvet if it were socially acceptable. That's what he says. Okay. Well, hey, it's about 5 o'clock, so this was a very random live stream.
It was. Well, this was better than not doing one, though.
Yeah. So I'll say this: if you're still with us, which 86.7 of you are still, according to the YouTubes, I apologize for this announcement. Hey, we're gonna do live streams every Friday at 4, and then we don't. We did like 3 or 4 of them in a row, and then there was nothing, and then there was one, and then there's been nothing for a long time.
It's hard.
So
also,
yeah.
you went to like Paris and Seattle.
I have been traveling
you were
a lot.
Sick and...
Yeah, I've been traveling a lot recently because of my wife's job and what she does. She travels a lot to speak at conferences all over the world and present her work, and sometimes I tag along. So I tagged along to Paris not too long ago. Which is cool. I made a video while I was there that hasn't been posted yet, but it's really cool. I connected with a church planter.
Oh, but you need French
Paris.
music.
I connected with a church planter in Paris, and this is really interesting. So I asked this guy. He was an American guy, but he's been living in Paris for a long time and planted a church. And his wife is from Normandy in Paris or in France. So anyway, I asked him a lot of questions about culture in Europe versus the United States. And I kind of led with like, a lot of people from the United States, the stereotype is that Europe is like this godless, heathen, secular place. Is that true? And he said his answer was yes and no. But it was really interesting. He talked to me a lot about, because he has a kid who's about the same age as my son, who's 4. And I asked him, he's like, do you feel safe in Paris? And he's like, Paris is the safest city I've ever lived. And he said there were like, less than 10 murders last year. And in Paris, it was like millions of people. And I was like, I told my dad that when I got home. My dad was like, no. And I thought the same thing, and he looked it up. There were like 11 murders in Paris last year. So he talked about like the people there. Compare that to to a major city in the United States. It's insane the difference.
That's nuts.
So it was really interesting. But he talked a lot about the church, and you'll see this in the video. I'm getting ready to post it. But he said that in Paris, I don't know if this was in the video. He said, but there are I can't remember the number of evangelical Christian churches there, or churches that are Bible-believing churches. And he said of those, there are about 10 of them that preach the gospel. So there are a lot of like health and wealth kind of, like Benny Hinn kind of stuff, like really weird fringe kind of out there stuff. But there are like 10, no offense if you're a fan of Benny Hinn, but it's out there. I'm not going to go there in this thing, but there are like 10 churches in all of Paris, and 2.5 million people that preach the gospel, and of those 10, like 100 people is large. So there is just a massive need for evangelism there. But he said the people are very, very callous to the gospel. So it's really interesting to me, but yet very kind people, So anyway, it was really interesting. So that video is coming soon, but yeah. Someone asked the name of this guitar. It's a Martin CEO 7.
Somebody said Kemper versus Helix. Kemper. Next question.
Helix. Next question. No, the Kemper is awesome. I think the Kemper sounds fantastic.
Different strokes for different folks.
I think the Helix also sounds fantastic. They do different things, honestly.
Yes, they do.
Their strengths they have different strengths and weaknesses, really. But
I saw that Kim Turn was here. I don't know if she's still here, but every time I brought it up, it's really hard. Like, people keep like posting their comments or suggestions or questions all the time, and like even if I keep saying the same thing, it's kind of hard. Like we get going on something, you don't want to go off track, and you don't want to like derail. So it's not like we're ignoring you and choosing not to answer your questions or something. It's just not easy.
Yeah, if we didn't answer it, sorry.
We try to be cohesive.
They fly by.
Yeah, we try not to just jump from like apples and oranges to can you smell the color 9? So.
Can you though? Can you smell the color 9, Bradford? Does it smell like...
That's a Chris Rice song. I just think it's a good example.
Does the number 9 smell like orange?
But can you smell the color anyways?
Oh, can you smell it?
But I'm saying the color is 9. So.
The color 9. Oh,
color.
Can you smell the color 9?
We're melding all of our senses together.
Yeah.
So... And I have done a terrible job in this live stream of staying on track, on topic, on any one thing.
But that's fine.
That's what the live stream is.
If they want to see anything cohesive, we have hundreds
of lots of other videos about that.
Which weren't cohesive until Brian made them so. Which is why I don't have many teaching videos.
The magic of editing, yes. We don't get that in a live stream. All right.
It's more raw. Organic.
Carbon
No,
fields.
this live stream does not contain carbon.
Agree to disagree.
We do.
Agree to disagree.
The stream itself does not. Okay. That was deep like a well, Jeremy said. Jeremy, you've been commenting a lot. I appreciate you, brother. Hopefully we've answered a few of them. So thanks for hanging with us. Yeah. And is Bradford's shirt velvet?
Ross's beard.
Ross's beard.
This is not velvet, Ross. Thank you though.
It's cotton.
And also my beard is not velvet either.
Yeah, cotton.
And this isn't velvet either, actually, is it?
Is it also
cotton? I can see why you think that, because I can see the playback shot, and it does look like it's velvet.
Yeah, it does, kind of.
Makes you look super, super fancy.
It's very styling.
Yeah, this shirt was $400 from Paris.
$400 from
No,
Paris?
It's organic.
This shirt was on sale at Kohl's, I'm going to tell you right now.
I think this was Kohl's, too.
I bought a lot of shirts
I feel
from
like
Kohl's.
New Hope just buys
lot
everything
of-
from Kohl's.
It used to be
I'm
the
pretty
buckle,
sure.
and I'm...
The buckle.
I don't know, buckle. Never mind. Another day.
Can we cut that out? Can we
cut it
we'll cut that part out.
out of the live stream?
Okay.
I wear the same pair of jeans every day. I don't know
I used
who
to shop
wins
at the buckle.
at that point.
You're
I
like
shopped at the
you're like
buckle.
Nick.
I wear the same exact pair of jeans.
Do you
every
wash
day.
them?
Yeah, please tell me you do.
I've washed them once.
Oh my!
Ah!
All right.
They don't smell bad. Y'all go somewhere.
Raul says that they love our show.
Oh.
Thank you. Any tips about a senior in high school? I start next week. Dom, you're going to be a senior in high school. What do we
Like
have
how
any
to be
tips
a
for
student? Do your homework.
Be kind to people.
Get some good rest.
Gosh,
Eat breakfast.
I feel like I'm so out of touch with what a teenager goes through in
feel
life
like-
these days. I don't know.
I don't know. Y'all like somebody. So I was doing
different.
something yesterday.
I
and-
grew up in small town.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even. But
in the mid to late 90s. Go ahead.
well, we did an event yesterday for the North Durham campus, and these kids were filling out a raffle, and they had cell phones, and they were sixth
Oh,
graders.
I didn't have a cell
Okay.
phone until after I graduated from
I was like
college.
15 because I was about to start driving,
Oops.
and my mom was freaking out about me driving. So,
Oh, I'm sure you did.
well, you're
I had
like a whole generation under.
You know what I saw the other? So
Me.
I have a 4-year-old, and I want to buy a watch. Okay, so I don't have a watch, and I constantly am like thinking I need to like have a watch, and I want to get a smartwatch. So if you have an opinion about Apple Watch versus
I'm trying not to hit you, but it's like angled right now.
I have all Apple gear. Look at all these notifications everywhere. I have all Apple stuff, but I've been intrigued by the world of Google recently. Bradford tells me that I will regret it immensely. But
not because Apple is supreme, but because I know you and I know you're gonna go head deep into Droid and you're gonna be like, oh,
You're
it's
right.
Apple. That's why.
Huh?
That's why.
You
Not
miss
because
it?
not
Yeah.
because it's Apple.
You're
it's
right.
because I know you.
I'd miss it. You don't fix something.
You
if
miss
it's
it
not
already.
working.
I miss it already.
So I'm thinking about buying a smartwatch, right? And I'm looking at like something like the Apple Watch versus like you can buy what do they call it? Android Wear. That's what the operating system is for Android watches. Android Wear now integrates with an iPhone. So I thought, there's some cool. I don't like the way the Apple Watch looks as much. It's very much a personal preference. I like a round watch face. Just me.
We've talked more about fashion in the show.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of cool Android watches out there. And then I saw this video about a review for a smartwatch for little kids. And it's like it's really cool. The little kid wears it and it tells them it helps them understand how to tell time. But basically what it is like a GPS chip for the parents. And so you always know where your child is at any given time. And it has this thing like if they're in trouble, they can push a button and it calls you. And if you don't answer, it calls another number. And so we have we have votes for Apple and Samsung.
Oh,
okay.
man.
And
choose one.
we have votes for Apple and Eric Sanchez is getting the boot. Bye-bye. You've been blocked. Okay.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Apologize for Eric
I didn't want to
Sanchez.
draw attention to it, but Brian was on a rampage. So I was gonna let him keep going.
So what was I talking about? Oh, smartwatch for my
And
4-year-old.
tracking your kid.
And it has like a button that they can push if they're in trouble. They can call.
Oh, well,
And it has another one like if they get lost, it will like GPS will point will map them how to get home.
Okay, that's cool.
Like it'll just point arrows that they can follow. And I'm about to buy my 4-year-old a smartwatch. How stupid is that? So we were just talking about how I didn't have a cell phone until I graduated from college, and all these 14-year-olds with cell phones, I'm about to buy my 4-year-old a smartwatch. So, I don't know. He would love it. Oh, man, he would love it.
Yeah.
He would think it's so cool. All he wants to do is go to Subway, because they have like these little watches that they give kids at Subway. He's like, I want another watch. He has 3 of them. He wants another one. You just go in and like order something, and they'll give you one. So. But all he does is chew on them. So maybe I don't want to give him a smartwatch. Anyway.
With great power comes great responsibility. Hey, we actually did do a song, so when we end this, you can...
Rewind it back. We did Shadow Step.
We did. Probably not going to do another song today. Keep hearing.
No, because it's after 5.
And it's a song we don't know. So
we did start late. Yeah, we did start late, so maybe we can let it go a little bit. But, hello from Denmark.
That's awesome.
There have been a lot of people from all around the world.
I think there's someone from Holland, too.
Yeah,
Poland.
yeah.
That's just super cool.
Northern Europe. What time is it there? It's probably not. It's probably, let's see, they're going to be 6 hours.
My English friend...
So it's going to be like in the evening there.
My English
6
friend
or 7
Richard
hours
was on.
ahead of us.
He was saying hi.
Oh, hello.
He's in England. Him and I talk a lot about guitar stuff on the regular.
Oh, nice.
He was on there.
Robert Valentin. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Because they're from Raleigh, North Carolina.
North Carolina.
You know where we're from, right? We're from Durham.
Chapel Thrill.
We're in Chapel Hill currently. But, hi, Robert. Hello. You live in our neighborhood, by the way.
Chicago.
From Brazil, from Chicago.
Oh, I need some of that pizza. We were talking about Chicago.
We were talking about
earlier.
pizza.
I need it so bad.
We did the Friday tradition of cheeseburgers.
Yes, that's our tradition here.
Yeah.
2309. Woo!
11:09. I was right. I said it'd be later, like 5 or 6 or 7 hours later than
Y'all partying it up over there in Holland.
That's right. Spokane, Washington.
Yes, you were just
Eugene. That's where you're from. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was in Bellingham, and then went north up into Canada. It's late in Sweden.
I got a buddy who lives in Spokane.
Did I call it Spokane? Is it Spokane?
I don't really know, actually. Sorry.
Eugene, is it Spokane or is it Spokane? Is it C-A-N or K-A-N-E?
I think it's Spokane.
Yeah. I don't know. Texas Barbecue. Is that a place? We were talking about places and food, and my mind melded them together.
And watches and velvet.
It's
been a great worship tutorial
Vancouver
live show.
Evan, I was just in Vancouver with my friend Nick Rice, who's in a lot of the vlogs. And I have a question. Why do I feel like a criminal every time I go over the border into Canada? I do.
Well,
the way
you're
that
feeling guilty.
The way that they
The shoe
question
fits.
you and like, so where are you going? This is what we said. We're gonna go to Vancouver and get lunch. And so I said, we're gonna go into Vancouver and get some lunch. Where are you gonna go? I'm not sure. We're gonna find a place. Where are you from? North Carolina. So you're telling me you came all the way from North Carolina to come to Vancouver for lunch? I was like, at this point, I was like, I don't have drugs in the car. I'm not a criminal. I don't have any weapons. I just want to go across the border into the park in Vancouver to get lunch. I don't know. I felt like a criminal. Why is it that way in Canada?
You are.
But I do like Canada a lot. Canada's a really cool place.
Canada.
It was nice. Vancouver was awesome. They just keep talking but not singing. You have to rewind the video to get to the singing.
Well, you must not have been listening to her talking, because I think we just told you that we did a song already.
Wow. Simmer down, Bradford.
It's Friday.
They might have just joined.
No, they asked.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. So, rewind the video about 30 minutes, and you'll see us some singing. Okay. We have Nexus, so it makes I don't know what that. Okay.
Well,
we just got another question. I'm gonna pass it to you, Bradford. Will you guys play a song today?
We don't know what music is.
I'm sorry. If you've just joined us, we've been talking about how we did a song earlier, and we were scheduled to be done by now. So we're actually about to sign off.
Y'all are on borrowed time. Y'all have 12 extra minutes from us. I'm feeling snarky today.
Start asking Bradford questions that you know get under his skin.
No filter.
Oh.
Well, there'll be a filter. I won't say mean things, but.
Do you use a cabinet on your Kemper Live? This is an interesting question that people ask a lot about.
I do not.
Kempers.
I go straight in the front of house.
Plug it straight in.
This is just here for make this application.
So we had
easier.
Woo. So we had audio from it. Do you know any worship songs? Some Brazilian singers? No, I don't.
I do not.
I'm sure there
not
are.
Unless
sure
like Israel Houghton or somebody like that's part Brazilian, in which case.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm sure there are some great Brazilian vocalists, worship leaders. Okay, we're going to sign it off. It's almost 5:15. I'm going to have to go get my son pretty soon.
I have to go to a potluck.
Oh, Bradford's going to a potluck. Bradford gets cranky when he's hungry. Is that true? Are you hungry, Bradford?
I'm always hungry.
Bradford is.
It depends on the level of hunger.
Angry.
Bradford's a growing boy.
I need some coffee or a nap. Ah ha 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 ha.
What do I know about Brazil? I've never been to Brazil.
I know it's a country.
I don't know a lot about it. I know where it is in the world, and that's about it.
Isn't it?
To go.
Is the Brazil? No. Chile is the one that's like a long
Yeah,
strip.
Chile's really long.
Really long strip. That's super cool.
Is
I don't
it?
know why.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us at Worship Tutorials today.
We've talked about
science, velvet, and food.
The first half of this thing was very focused.
It was.
If you're just joining us, Bradford and Hannah and I all three talked about how we got or are getting into ministry in a
the beginning was fruitful.
Like a career, as a career kind of a situation.
Life calling. Yes.
Then we sang a song, and then we talked about science and faith, and it just unraveled from there. Yes.
It's been a long day. The three of us have been in this room since like 10 a.m.
We did because we've recorded, did a lot of recording and video stuff. So.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Until next time, we are going to try and make the live thing a regular thing because it is really fun to hang out with you guys. It feels like we're hanging out together.
Week.
Are you?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my goodness.
I don't want to do it by myself. That's the thing, because you talk about a boring live show. If it was just me. Welcome to Worship Tutorials. This is Jeremy, where you can get endless fashion advice. I don't know if you want fashion advice from me, personally. That's not a good idea.
Well, the fashion advice is if you wear jeans that fit you right, almost anything else will work.
And wear velvet.
Apparently, these days, if you're a skinny male worship leader,
I know what's coming.
you can wear what I would like to refer to as a blouse.
Oh my
goodness.
You know, like a really long shirt that has a scooped neck. Whenever I see a worship leader wearing one of those, I always like, if I know them.
I like your blouse.
I like it.
It's a nice blouse.
Your clothes, they look expensive. Thank you. Nacho Libre.
I mean, no offense or any hot button topic issue.
Okay, we're going to end this.
All right, we better get out of here. All right.
End button.
Thank you all for hanging with us. Check this out. We're going to try and make this smooth. You guys want to say bye?
Bye.
Bye-bye.